quite interesting. These chords, it's a minor, then you drop into the major chord. I think it might be E up there. You just take it up one. And there's this very difficult seventh. Resolves itself into G. It's lovely, isn't it? Beautiful sounds. It's quite finger stretching. Manganita. Interesting thing is, of course, all the open strings you play sound good. Nice, isn't it? And you get the great rhythms. Abigail, the great joy. As I said earlier, whenever you play an open string, it's in tune, so you can lift your fingers up anytime you like. Oh, there you go. It's very interesting. Very interesting thing to explore, and I can understand the more I explore it that first of all you have to be a reasonable guitarist to handle it, because there's lots of odd strings. unconventional. See, in this guitar I can't play an open string. It just sounds wrong, but on the other one I can. The morning. Oh dear, wrong key. Morning has come. And the light is here, and we've risen up to worship you in the light of your creation, in the light of your love and your joy. Over me, you have watched over me, and here I am to praise your name, to praise you, Lord. Watching over me. Over me. Over me. Margaret. The Lord, He is King. The Lord, He is King. Yes, the Lord, He's my King. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. I'm singing. Hallelujah, yes. Hallelujah, yes. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Ba, 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 ba. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Woo. best guitar for that would be the Gibson, of course. That really has a tremendous driving bass, but the Gibson's over there and I'm over here, and I haven't any more room for guitars in here at the moment. But I am contemplating a toner, which is the absolutely best guitar you can get. And when I get back from Accra, I'm going to go to the guitar shop, have a look at them, because you know. I also, you know, there are other open strings as well, D and A. I might set one up on my practice guitar today and have a look at it and see what it sounds like. Well, here we are again. Here we are again. And we're going to go to Mark again. At least I hope we are. Yes, here we are. And, yep. Mark 6. I had a shock this morning. I picked up my phone to set it up for this and couldn't find anything on the phone at all. Couldn't find a single thing on the phone. Oh no, it's just updated to 16. And I thought, what's this? Oh, I had Mary's phone. Ooh, that was a relief. Morning, Paul. That was a relief. Yeah, I've been contemplating yesterday, Wednesday night, and the failure of that live stream. And so some changes will come now in the live streaming, and we're just working out the implications of our supporters not coming to support us at such a vital moment in the ministry. We're just trying to work that out. So I'm not abundantly happy at the moment about things. I think, as you know, if you listened to Facebook yesterday, it hasn't gone away. It won't go away because it's touched the prophet in me. So I've got to think that through. Today, I am going to Brighton. Yes, it is true. It is time for Mary's pre-Ghana haircut. And I don't know what I'm going to do in Brighton. I really don't. It is a den, an absolute den of these iniquitous coffee shops. Terrible. So my son Stephen's coming over to help me assess one or two of them. Not to enjoy, of course. I want you to be clear. It's just part of my study as to whether I should go to Nero or Pret or both. Only to test, I hasten to add. Yes. It'll be nice. Stephen's coming over to meet us. He lives, well, about an hour's drive from here. But, you know, imagine a triangle. We're on two different sides, and Brighton's easy for both of us. So we'll do that today. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? And we'll see where we go from there. Talking to Comfort and Brian last night was lovely in Ghana, and our close friends. And, you know, just... enjoying being in Ghana last night for a while on our Zooming. Now, the early fathers, the early church, Peter and Mark and James, decided, I think, that we should know about our powerful Lord. And so we've met him very powerfully in the storm on the lake, the casting out of Legion, the healing of the woman with the hemorrhage, and the raising of Jairus' daughter. Morning, Betty. The raising of Jairus' daughter. And there is some thinking that those four stories were already in circulation together. You know, the church in the early days, just like us, it puts teaching programs together. And maybe that was one of them. Who knows? And Mark adapted. I don't know. They have a lovely feeling of belonging together. There's one that isn't in there that actually probably does belong to that. And that is the feeding of the 5,000. It doesn't come, it comes just after, but maybe it belongs in a work of power because it teaching about the provision of the Lord. Maybe that's what they felt. It didn't quite fit the power thing. It fitted more the provision thing, I don't know. Anyway, it comes soon after these other great works of power. It's a very simple story. They were teaching and a large crowd came. And at the end of the day, that Jesus said, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest," to himself and his disciples. It was a stressful time. All these people, all this teaching, you know, stuff. So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. Possibly they moved across Galilee, you know, to plenty of shore there, plenty of quiet places on the shore. Probably knew one, went to it. But the people who saw them leaving recognised them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. So you can go around Galilee. It's a lake, and you can go around it. And they went round it. So by the time they sailed across or rowed across, the crowd were there again. And it was a large crowd, and he had compassion on them. Splagnitsomai, that moving of the bows, he had great compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. A verse which Matthew picks up in Matthew 9 when he looks at the crowd and he sees them like sheep without a shepherd. And so he began teaching them many things. He helped them. It's the natural response of a leader seeing people lost spiritually and want to help them. And he began to teach them many things. By that time it was late in the day, and his disciples came to him and they said, "This is a remote place and it's already late. Send the people away so they can go to the surrounding countryside to get themselves something to eat." They made the problem the people's problem. Interesting, isn't it? Jesus has compassion. He feels the people's problem, but the disciples want to push the people's problem. Morning, Phyllis. Away. Morning, Anne. The disciples want to push the problem away onto the crowd. Note the difference there between the Lord's heart and the disciples' heart. They didn't come and say, "What can we do, Master?" They'd seen him raise the dead, heal the sick, and cast out the demons and still the storm. You'd have thought by now they'd have figured out he had the power to do wonderful things, but they didn't. They made the problem the people's problem. They pushed it away. I see that all the time. I see exactly the national health is making sickness our problem now, and very hard to get the treatment you need because it's your problem, not our problem. And that's what the disciples doing here, and the church does it, and we do it. We see a need, but it's their problem. We have a food bank outside a church just down the road here, some racks where those who need come. But what about those that have got? Do those that have got put in so that those who need can come and take? No, it's their problem, isn't it? But Jesus is not like that. That's what I find so distressing about these attitudes, that the Lord saw their need, he had compassion on them. The disciples wanted to get rid of their need, and so they said, "Send them away." Jesus answered, "You give them something to eat." Now here we're at the key of the story, that the feeding is a kind of also ran in many ways to the teaching that Jesus wants his disciples to have. He now makes it their problem. See, interesting how it's going around, isn't it? He sees the crowd's problem. The disciples want to make the problem the crowd's problem. Now Jesus has made the problem his disciples' problem, who are going around in a circle. Because Jesus is not going to have this. And so they come up with a little joke. They said, if we had more than half a year's wages, we wouldn't be able to buy bread to feed them, and anywhere we get it from. See, ha ha ha, joke. Now, here's the problem. They have seen, but they haven't seen. And that's what Isaiah taught. That was Isaiah's commission. Speak to these people. They will see but not see. They will hear but not hear. They will listen but not listen, not understand. Here we have it in absolute gold bars. These disciples have seen things that you and I would love to have seen. We'd have loved to have seen these things. They saw them, but they didn't see them. They saw a man healing a sick. They saw a man casting out demons. They were astonished. Remember what I said, how dangerous the word astonish is? They were astonished, but they didn't believe. You see how dangerous that word is? They were amazed and astonished, but they didn't make the connection. And they still haven't made it. Because if they had made it, they would have said this: "Master, these people are hungry, and we don't have a means to feed them, but you are powerful. You will have a way of feeding them. You will have a solution to the problem. So we put our faith in your hands." No, they didn't do that. They just said, well, it's their problem, and now it's their problem. And they respond with stupidity, which is their hallmark, so don't be surprised. And if you think we haven't done the same, I'm sure we have. We don't have the money to feed them with. We don't have the money to feed them with. What are we dealing with here? How dense can these people be? It's not about money. It's about the powerful Lord who stands in front of them. And they're just not seeing it. So here we are, we're stuck. So Jesus says this. Jesus is, this is a good teaching program going on here. I think he knows exactly what he's up to. He says, how many loaves do you have? Go and see. And so they went off and they came back and they said, 5 and 2 small fish. In another version, Peter says there's a small lad here with a little bread and fish. They're still laughing. Dangerous thing to mock the Lord, I always think. Extremely dangerous. He is extremely loving, but there is a line, and they're almost stepping over it. Here they said, ha 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 ha. Well, you try this for size. Yeah, you told us to fix it. We fixed it. Here we are. This will do the front 3 people. Ho, ho, ho. Jesus said, make the people sit down. The people sat down in groups on the green grass. That's interesting, isn't it? See, that didn't matter. It didn't matter what the people did, but an eyewitness is reciting this. Peter's saying, well, they all sat down on this lovely grass. There was no grass around, and they sat on it. It's a detail which makes us believe, this is eyewitness testimony. They sat down. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven, so the disciples might get the message where the power's coming from, he gave thanks, Eucharisto, and broke the loaves. And now the disciples can play their part, their minimal, small, insignificant part. They distributed the bread and the fish, and they all ate and were satisfied. So the disciples are downgraded from being able to serve the Lord in faith by saying, we don't know, but you do, we trust you. They're now just giving it out. See how they are not being able to do what they could have done. And everyone gets loads. And the number of men who had eaten was 5,000. The Jews counted men, not the women and children, so probably a lot more than 5,000. And they picked up 12 basketfuls of bread left over from the feast. Again, an eyewitness detail. Here we have it. Jesus the provider. Maybe. But underneath, there's a powerful message going on here, which I think our forefathers needed us to learn. And it was this. If you only have a little, it doesn't matter. What matters is where you put it. See? If you only have a little, it doesn't matter. It just matters where you put it. Jesus took a little. A tiny grain of faith is all he needs. And he did a mighty work. The tiny amount of food was enough for him. And that's what the disciples should have done. They should have said, Master, we don't have any means of doing this, but you do. So we'll do what we can. And this is all we can. It's so small. We're not laughing or anything. It's just that we don't have any more. We can't find any more. This is it. And the Lord goes, great, well, that's enough then. That'll do. And with the little, he does a lot. And I think that's the heart of this story. Jesus the provider, yes, but we know he's a provider, the great provider God. We know that, and it's good to be reminded of it, and it's a great story to be reminded of it. But here's the heart, is the heart of the disciples is exposed by their reaction to Jesus the provider. They didn't see it. And, all they had to do was say, we can't, but after what we've seen, we know you can. And this is all we have. And whenever I do a healing ministry or pray for people for healing or whatever, all I need is a tiny grain of sand of faith in them. But there has to be that. There has to be just the minutest amount of faith. And I take that and I place it in the hands of a great God, and I say, and I add my faith to it, which is also pretty small. I say, you can heal this woman. I know you can, but I don't have a lot of faith to bring you just this little bit. And he goes, oh, that's great then. Jolly good. I'll do it. But without that grain of faith, the Lord doesn't do it. Because if he did, we would just become children running around like taking what we wanted everywhere and demanding what we wanted, insisting that Daddy gave it to us. We would never grow. We would stay babies, greedy babies. We'd finish up the Tower of Babel. That's the end. That's the ultimate destination of this kind of behaviour. The Lord has so ordained it that we have our part to play in his mighty works. All we have to bring is the little we have. That's all we have to bring, the little we have. And he does the rest. The problem is, well, not only do I think that many in the church haven't figured this out, I often hear this, well, of course, we can't do that. But a lot of works fail because those who just have the little don't bring it. Often they don't bring it because they think it's too small. You know, I get a widow's mite every month here from a lady. She's been doing it for 10 years. It's the tiniest amount. Compared to the demands of the work, which are astronomical, this little amount is so small, but it's all she has. And every month I place it in the hands of the great God and I say, so-and-so has sent her mite again. I put it in your hands. Do what you can with it. Who's to say that the part of the school isn't rising up on the strength of that widow's mite? Because the Lord then goes off and hundredfolds it. And we are moving forward. Don't make the mistake of thinking that you've nothing to bring. Certainly don't make the mistake of laughing at the small you have. But put it in the hands of the God, the great God, who can do anything. If you can raise the dead, right? Feeding 5,000 is nothing. It's just a small thing. Compared to the raising of Jairus' daughter, the raising of the widow of Nain, and the calling of Lazarus from the tomb, if you can do that, you can pretty well do anything. So, take your small faith and place the little you have in the hands of the big God and let him do the rest. And I think, in many ways, when you think about it, it's quite a good PS to the works of power, isn't it? The works of power, all the disciples had to do was look at them and understand them. But now they have to put them into practice and they fail miserably. I don't mind running them down because they're just like me, and they did it in the end, didn't they? In the end, they did build the church, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And I'm so delighted that they've got feet of clay. It makes me, I'm comfortable in their presence because I'm the same. I have feet of clay. I make endless mistakes. I get glum, I get dispirited, I lose my way, I do the wrong things. And Peter says to me, oh, that's right, Michael, don't worry about it. I did the same. But he's very faithful. Don't worry, he'll stick with you. Don't worry about it, you know. Or James and John, oh, that old greatness thing, Michael, don't worry about it. It's all right, fine, don't worry. It'll be all right. Or Abraham, you know, oh, Michael, don't worry, you know, I know, oh dear, I dropped a massive brick, you know, or Jacob, oh, Michael, dear me, compared to me, you're a saint. And I like these men. And I like Hannah, you know. Michael, don't be disheartened when you're filled with grief for what you've lost. That's okay. He can deal with it. I can tell you. Or Elizabeth, just go on believing, Michael. Don't worry. Me have a child, it was 60, 70, it's impossible, but I didn't give up. I just kept believing and he did it. So it's okay, you know, just hang in there, be all right. All will be well. Nice, isn't it, that our leaders were just so human. And I do feel that. I feel encouraged by them. I wonder what I'd have done there, you know, given the evidence that I'd had. Probably like Peter, you know, ho, ho, ho. That probably would have been me. But, you know, the Lord is able to do great things with little. We were just talking yesterday, Mary and I, about the work we have to do. And, you know, it's 40 years now. We've been 53 years in ministry. 40 years-ish we've been running the mission. We started with £50, you know, and we still have nothing. If things go on like this with the income into the mission, we'll not be able to carry on. But that's how it is. And yet we look at what we've been able to do, how we've been able to visit so many countries, 60 or 70, how we've been able to speak to so many people in so many countries, how We've been able to speak to so many people in Africa and especially Ghana, how we found Bishop Mafori and Paul, and how we built the work up and built the school and built the churches, and how we found, Margaret and the rest of you ladies in Ghana and men, how we, and all this on nothing except we believed it's what God had, and we've nothing to give him, and here we are. So, don't you find that encouraging? Just take the little you've got and let him do the rest. And it's wonderful. Well, I hope that encouraged this morning, 7:50. So, we're not here tomorrow. Tomorrow, as you know, we don't do Chatterbox at weekends. Yeah, Pat, you're right. Isn't it great, eh? I look at you and David and me and Mary and I think, would I have chosen these 4 people? Answer no. And yet, he uses us because he loves us. Isn't it great? And, Margaret and Phyllis and who else is on this morning? I've just seen Heather and Betty and Paul with Margaret. Would you have used us? No. But the Lord loves us. He'll see us through. The school will be finished, of course. I don't know when I'll see it finished, but it will be finished. And so will the teacher centre. That'll be finished too, because it's what the Lord wants. And we put the little we've got and he'll do the rest. So we're not here tomorrow. I don't do Chatterbox weekends, but Sunday morning Grace Church, 8 o'clock, British summertime, till 9. And this week we will have prayers. So prayers 8 to 8:15. They poured in last week, as they always will. And we'll have ministry, worship and teaching. And then I will leave 5 minutes at the end, maybe 10, depends on the timing, so you can send in your comments on the message. Last week, 1 or 2 came. Somebody said to me, part of the problem is we're so busy listening, we don't have time to send, but we'll make a space for that. Okay, next week. Phyllis, place this little we have in the hands of the Lord, and he will do the rest. Yes, thank you, Phyllis. Denise, yep. It's all to do with our hearts, not quality. We do often feel we're not good enough, we haven't got enough, but Jesus is more than enough. Very good, Denise, that's lovely, thank you. Pat, so great the Lord accepts and forgives our mistakes. Yep. Good, isn't it? I'd hate to serve another God. I've read them all. They're so judgmental, and they just, they discipline and they punish and all the rest of it. Well, good luck to them. That's not my God, I'm glad to say. Heather, he constantly teaches me through my mistakes that he is sovereign God of love. Yes, doesn't he just? Doesn't he just, Heather? Constantly going, it's all right. Anne says, such a building up message. Yes, good. Isn't it great? Yep. Well, I haven't got much to give at the moment, but what I have, he can have, and we'll do what we can. Hallelujah. Nice to be with you this morning. Not my shining best, you can see today, but there it is. Say lovey, such is life. I think what I need to do is probably, go to one of these dens of iniquity and have a couple of their awful potions. That's what I think I need to do. I don't know. But nice day yesterday. It was good. The Lord was with us, and he continues to be with us. Facebook next. Stay on YouTube if you want to. A number of you do now, and I understand that you've already got on it. Why not stay on it? It's not a problem. Let it be that way. I'd been better to have been small. Hi, darling. I'd better be small in this cramped space. 3'9" would be just good.